So I have a long commute. It's about an hour on a good day. Sometimes Washington traffic is not kind, and it takes like an hour and 10, an hour and 15. One of the things I've started doing to help pass the time and make that commute a little bit more enjoyable is listening to audiobooks. And no, this is not sponsored by Audible. Just saying. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Melissa. I am going to do a slightly different kind of video today. These are some videos that I really enjoy watching, and I thought I would share with you some of the books I've been listening to. Now, or reading or listening to, take your pick. But I primarily listen to books on tape because I do have that long commute. And it has become one of those things where I really look forward to getting in the car. It's just me, turning that book on and listening to what's unfolding in the next hour or so that I'm on the road. I really enjoy it. And I personally check them out of the library. I use the app Libby, and you can download and then just listen to it right there through your phone. And it doesn't cost you anything, so no, this is not sponsored. So I'm going to start off with, where do I get book ideas from? With the death of bookstores, if you will, like, no, are there any bookstores near you? Oh my gosh, they're closing like crazy because everything's online, it's digital, whatever. You order it from Amazon. So the bookstores are hurting, but I still love to read. And I get inspiration, well, I used to get inspiration from going to the bookstore and browsing the shelves and looking to see what the best sellers were. Well, that's not really an option for me anymore. So now I follow a couple of different Instagram accounts that I get a lot of great recommendations from. So the first one is Reese Witherspoon. She has an online book club, and it's called at Reese's Book Club. I'll included down below. And she makes monthly recommendations, and I find her taste and my taste are very similar, and I generally like a lot of what she recommends. Another one I like is from Jenna Hager. Hers is at Read with Jenna, and I also like a lot of the recommendations that she makes. So if you're on Instagram and you like to read, I would suggest following them and seeing what comes up in their feed, because there are some great suggestions there. Also, this time of year, there are a lot of like best of lists going around, and I always scroll through those. On Goodreads, you'll get like what were the most popular books, or the readers voted as the best book of the year, all different genres, so you can go on there and look at those. And also, I think Amazon has, the most downloaded books or the most popular books. Like, they also run some lists too. So I always try and keep my eyes open towards the end of the year for books that maybe I've missed that were very popular and well received and well liked. So let's get into the ones that I've read recently. The first one is called Into the Water by Paula Hawkins, and she wrote the book Girl on a Train. It was made into a movie. It was highly successful, and I loved that book. I thought that book was really interesting. Into the Water is like a psychological suspense genre, very similar to Girl on the Train. Just to give you a quick little blurb about the book, it is about a single mother who turns up dead in the bottom of the river that runs through town. Earlier in the summer, a vulnerable teenager met the same fate. They are not the first women to have lost their lives to these waters, but their deaths disturb the river and its history, dredging up secrets long submerged. I tried to read this book a couple times. Like, I tried to physically read this book on my Kindle a couple times, and I really just couldn't get into it. And so I thought, well, sometimes books on audio are a little bit easier to get through if you have a little trouble getting started. And that was the case with this one. However, I would probably rate this one a 3 out of 5. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was suspenseful. It wasn't predictable. It was a decent read. The next book is The Wife by Meg Wolitzer. And you may recall that this was made into a movie, and Glenn Close, surprisingly, I think, shocked everyone when she won the Golden Globe for this. Like, she was not the favorite, but apparently she had a very compelling performance, and she won a Golden Globe for her performance in that role. I have not seen the movie, but when I saw that come up as something that was available in my library, I thought, I'm going to check this out and read the story. So I found there were many surprises in this book, and some of them were very entertaining. I definitely gave this one a 5 out of 5. If you don't know what this is about, The Wife is a story of the long and stormy marriage between a world-famous novelist and his wife and the secret they've kept for decades. The novel opens just as Joe is about to receive a prestigious international award, the Helsinki Prize, to honor his career as one of America's preeminent novelists. Joan, who spent 40 years subjugating her own literary talents to fan the flames of his career, finally decided to stop. And there were lots of surprises in this book. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was excellent. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next is called Still Alice by Lisa Genova. This was also made into a movie. It starred Julianne Moore, and I think she was nominated for an Oscar for her performance. I think it's a pretty powerful movie. I actually wanted to read this book because of my mom. My mom had a stroke a few years ago, and it didn't affect her physically, but it affected her cognitively. And now, as she's gotten older and older, her short-term memory isn't very good, and she finds ways to cope, which become very clear to me, or to the family, as time goes on. You can tell when she's kind of like skirting the issue she doesn't really remember. And I'm not sure she's really aware that she's doing it. Anyway, I wanted to read this story because this is a story about a woman, a young, happily married woman with 3 grown children that is a Harvard professor at the height of her career when she notices forgetfulness creeping into her life. So this is a story about Alzheimer's or early onset dementia. The confusion starts to cloud her thinking and her memory begins to fail her. She receives a devastating diagnosis, early onset Alzheimer's disease. Fiercely independent, Alice struggles to maintain her lifestyle and live in the moment, even as her sense of self is being stripped away. So this is not a happy book, but it isn't terribly it's not like sobbing sad, but the subject matter is very serious. And like I said, I wanted to read it because of my mom, because I thought maybe I would get some insight to maybe how she's feeling or what she's going through. So I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's can be difficult to listen to and probably to read. It's sad because it doesn't end well. You know the ending isn't going to end well, but it was a good read. It was a really good read. The next book is called A Spool of Blue Thread by Anne Tyler. This is another book that I started a few times and didn't quite get through. Ultimately, I ended up enjoying this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's basically the story of a family. It's about, their lives, their losses, and just kind of general family things that come up. It also is about relationships between siblings and how they can be sometimes competitive, maybe not always getting along all the time. There's, it's just like your average family, like every family has issues like this. So this was a good book. It did have a pretty interesting surprise in the middle of it, which surprised me, obviously. And I would give this 4 out of 5 stars. It was a good book. It was a solid book, but it wasn't like, a great book. Does that make sense? The next book is called Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ning. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This book has appeared on so many lists. I put off reading it for almost a year. It just didn't grab me. Like, the title didn't grab me, the book jacket didn't grab me, and I was just like, what is it about this book that people like so much? And let me just cut to the chase. I loved this book. I loved it. 5 out of 5, probably 6 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book a lot. So this is what you would call like a deep psychological mystery, and it is about motherhood and teenage love, the intensity of teenage love, and the danger of perfection. So side note, This is going to be made into like a mini series, I think, with Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington on Hulu. Probably similar to the series on HBO that Reese did that was so popular. What is the name of that? Big Little Lies. I'm sure it's going to be extremely well done. There's like a couple of different storylines here. I just really enjoyed this book so much. A riveting novel that traces the intertwined fates of the picture-perfect Richardson family and the enigmatic mother and daughter who upend their lives. So it is really about kind of two families, and it tells their stories and then how they're intertwined. It's really, really a good book. I highly recommend. Okay, the next one is called The Last Houseguest by Megan Miranda. This is what I would call like a thriller, but not like super scary, just more like suspenseful thriller. Not quite a mystery, but it says here, a smart, twisty read with a strong female protagonist determined to make her own way in the world. I felt like this started off a little bit slow, but as I got into it, I would say it's like 4.5 stars out of 5. I did enjoy this quite a bit. It held my interest, and I thought it was a good story. Littleport, Maine has always felt like two separate towns, an ideal vacation enclave for the wealthy, whose summer homes line the coastline, and a simple harbor community for the year-round residents, whose livelihoods rely on the service of those visitors. It's really a story about friends. One is a local girl who's quite wealthy and owns one of the big homes on the coastline, and a summer girl who comes from less than great circumstances. Her parents have both died, and she's pretty much alone in the world, and it's about their friendship and how much more do I want to say without giving away too much of the story. I think I'll leave it at that. I think this is a great story. I really enjoyed it. It says here I rated it 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, I think that's about right. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and I'll know that you liked it and you would maybe like more content like this. I'm always looking for a good book recommendation, so hey, feel free to share down below if you have one that you particularly enjoyed. I publish videos every Saturday morning, and I'll include a link to last week's video right over here, and I will also include some recommended content for your viewing pleasure over here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.